I'm Madeline Anakire. I'm a first-year student at the University of Notre Dame, and ever since I was young, I would often watch horror movies with my family. It was just something we did on Sundays when we all had free time, and I always thought it was interesting on how they would find inspiration for the films. Some of the classic horror films, like Frankenstein and this one's played by Boris Karloff, was always inspired by like classic stories, and they would always just have some basis in like the unknown or the supernatural, and not until I first saw House of Wax, which was a 50s horror movie, which was on a sci-fi rerun, did I really ever understand the concept of like slasher flicks, although the first one was Peeping Tom, which came out in 1960, right before Hitchcock's very famous Psycho. And I'd always just associated horror films with some other supernatural entity, and when I realized that there were real-life monsters as well, it was revolutionary. And with this project, I was presented with the opportunity to research the inspiration that Hitchcock found for his one of the first and most famous slasher flicks, which I feel really cemented and popularized the genre. And he was inspired by a serial killer called Ed Gein, and he makes reference to the crime several times in his film. But Gein had an emotionally abusive childhood thanks to his mother, but despite all of the abuse that he suffered, he took care of her until her death. And so in Psycho, Norman Bates, the main character, or the antagonist, I should say, also had a verbally abusive mother, except he later, after her death, in order to perform his murders, he became her, he dressed up as her. But Gein robbed graves much longer, like before he started killing, and he only ever killed 2 people, like in the movie. And but he was when Gein was arrested in '57 after Bernice Worden was noted to be missing, he was found criminally insane and then sent to a mental hospital. In Psycho, Hitchcock references the emotional abuse at the hands of his mother, and the shy and almost awkward demeanor that both Gein and Bates have. But instead of focusing on the details of the crime, Hitchcock instead focused on Gein's psychosis and psyche when portraying it in the film. This leads to a movie that is very similar to the crime in motive, but a much later film, Silence of the Lambs, focused on the more gory details that I'll spare you because they're kind of gross. But I feel like with the first slasher film, Hitchcock was able to introduce a new era of film, which has remained relatively popular, although downsloping in recent years. And it came back again in the 90s with the influence of Silence of the Lambs.
Is that it?
Yeah.